What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down this unguardable route that DBs will not be able to stop if you run it correctly. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you guys are a wide receiver or a quarterback and would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches this offseason, we are traveling out to 14 more states across the country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. Next up on our camp tour, we'll be coming out to Orlando, Florida. That camp is completely sold out, but then we'll be coming out to Phoenix, Charlotte, Dallas, the DMV, St. Louis, Honolulu, Boston, Cleveland, Austin, Seattle, Newark, Denver, and Los Angeles. So if you guys want some more information on that, how you can sign up, check out that very first link in the description below. Let's get started with this video. So the first route we're going to be discussing here is from Sterling Shepard, and this is a whip route. So the whip route is one of the most unguardable routes, I feel, if you guys can run it correctly. And the first way we're going to be discussing is off of your third step on the break. So obviously a whip is where you sell a slant, you sell a drag, something to try to get a DB to crash down, and then we whip it back to the outside. You keep your hips and your shoulders parallel to the line of scrimmage. Sometimes guys will think it's a whip route when they break on a slant and they turn. That is called a blaze out or a slant out. A whip is where you keep your hips and your shoulders parallel. Now, there's a few different ways that you can run a whip route, and that's what we'll be discussing. So let's play this first clip here from Sterling Shepard. This is probably as good as it gets when it comes to the break here, because he is breaking off his third step, and he's out of this break in 2 steps while still selling the route. So on any double move, whether you're running a sluggo, an out and up, a post corner, that first move that you run, it is super important that we do not change speed, we do not break stride, and we do not start to round at my pad level. So if I'm trying to get a DB to crash down, I got to make sure that I'm running hard, because that's what those guys look for on double move routes. They look for wide receivers who will break on the first move. They start to slow down. They start to raise up their pad level. Maybe they start to take choppy steps, and that tells them that they're not running a drag and they're not running a slant. So it's much easier to change direction while doing that said than done, right? I could sit back and tell you to get out of this break in 2 steps, but how do we actually get out of it in 2 steps? And it comes from a few things. So when you break off of your outside foot, the first way to run a whip is off of your third step. So you're going to run it like any regular double move. That's your first step, right? That's number 1. Second step here, snapping on the third step. So just like a sluggo, you break off the third step. Just like on an out and up, you only take 3 steps. Same thing on a whip. Now, you're going to be breaking on your inside foot, so the foot closest to the quarterback. So when you snap on that foot, it is very, very important on this whip route to eliminate any kind of wasted time at the break. Now, I say this, and we're going to be talking about cutting out steps, but I don't want you to get so caught up in getting out of your breaks in only 2 steps that you sacrifice running hard, because I would rather have you take 4 steps and have it be fast, have you sell the route, have the DB crash down, than have you run a slant, start to slow down because you're so concerned about getting out in 2 steps. That's not what I'm trying to accomplish here. I want you to be able to sell the route and drop violently. If you take 4 steps, that might be faster than somebody who takes 2 steps and is jogging into the break. So when he snaps on this inside foot, it's very important that you get low. You want to think of it like your butt. You were sitting into a chair and you were trying to touch your chin to your knee. I think he may have bent a little bit too far forward here, which can cause you to be off balance and drift, but he doesn't end up drifting here because his outside foot is very good at hooking around. So when you're breaking on a whip route off this third step, you want to snap off the third, hook with the 4th step. So you break off your right foot, left, right, left, you snap, hook the right one around. Our goal is to try to turn my toes and point my toes towards the line of scrimmage. So if you can turn your toes towards the line of scrimmage, that will get your hips, that will get your shoulders, that'll get everything to make this a lot easier for you to get out of the break. Now, when you hook this foot around, you have to make sure that we are driving off that foot. You snap, you hook, but we push off of this foot. And you see how his shin angle is almost at a 45-degree angle. That 45-degree angle can be a little bit dangerous at times if you are stepping way outside of your frame, and he kind of is outside of his frame here, but when he makes the cut, it is inside of his frame. He's in a balanced position, and that's how you can avoid any kind of injury to that leg. So again, whip route, very, very tough to beat when you're able to get out of this thing in 2 steps, sell the route, drop violently, and I think this is something that everybody should try to strive for when running a whip route. Not saying you have to get out in 2 steps, because it's incredibly hard, but I think everybody should strive to be able to do this, especially when they are selling a slant route. So now let's play this full speed, and then we're going to look at another way to run a whip route when it is more off of a drag concept here from Deontay Johnson. Now, this is going to be off of his 4th step. So when you run like a drag, Obviously, we were trying to cross this DB's face. Obviously, we were trying to run. But on a drag route, and again, it kind of is based off of your offense as well. Because if you're a team that like is a very slant-heavy team, running a lot of slants, double slant, slant bubble, you run a lot of smash, you can use that whip route from a slant. But if you're a team that likes to run maybe a lot of mesh from the slot, you like to run a lot of drags, you like to run a lot of like clear outs, whatever it is where you got to cross this DB's face, this is when you could maybe use this type of move. And again, usually it's based on the scheme. Usually a coach will tell you this. But reason why, so he doesn't break off the inside foot here. He breaks off of his outside foot on this whip route. So let's talk about why. When he runs this route and he breaks in front of his face, when you're running a drag, are you getting the ball right away? No, you're probably getting the ball on the opposite side of the formation, right? You got to drag across the field. So naturally, if you're running a whip route, you're probably going to sell it a little bit longer. So instead of him taking 3 steps, where that's 1, 2, and then snapping on the 3rd, he takes 1 more and snaps on the 4th. Now, this will change up the break, but it is still, you could still get out of this thing in a very fast and efficient way. It's pretty much the same type of cut. So that's his first step, 2nd, 3rd, and then on the 4th, he snaps down. Just like the last example from Sterling Shepard, he's getting low, trying to touch his chin to his knee, dropping his butt like he's sitting in a chair, and it's a violent drop. Because when you're trying to get a DB to commit on a drag and chase you, you better be running fast. You better be running in full stride. We can't take choppy steps and run a drag. Who runs a drag like that? Nobody runs a drag like that. So you got to make sure we have speed and we're able to drop violently. So now, since we were going off the outside foot, you obviously can't do a whip route and get right back out to 90 degrees off of 1 step. You're going to need to take some extra steps. So since you're going with the outside foot, it's going to add 1 more step. If it's a perfect rep, I want to make that very clear. If it's a perfect break, it adds 1 more step to the break. So on the Sterling Shepard clip, it was 2 steps. On this one, it's going to be 3 steps. So he snaps. Now, what do you think his second step needs to do? It needs to pivot. You need to try to point your toes to the line of scrimmage so your 3rd step can hook around and we can drive off the 3rd step. Now, you see how his shin is here and his ankle is facing the ground? That is a very dangerous position to be in, and I don't recommend that you guys try to ever get to that spot. You got to make sure that when you hook this step around, whether you're snapping on the inside foot or whether you're going outside foot going 1, 2, 3, that foot can't get outside your frame like this because that could, if you step wrong, that could lead to a very, very bad knee injury. But again, great job pivoting his feet, great job getting his hips and shoulders back to the line of scrimmage and getting out of that break least amount of time possible. On a whip route, it is unguardable. If you can sell it correctly, if you run full stride, run full speed, and can drop on a dime, but also eliminate any kind of wasted time at the top of the break. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Johnson showcasing how you guys can take more than just 3 steps and how you guys can get out of a whip route in 3 steps at the break point. Okay, so this next example here from this wide receiver, I wanted to show this because I think this is a more, let's put it this way, creative way to run a whip route, especially when you have inside shade on the goal line. So how many of you have probably been put in this situation before? You have inside shade, 5 yards off, it's man coverage, and you have to run a slant, right? So if you're running a whip route, essentially like you can't really necessarily change up the play, right? You can't just be like, oh, well, he's inside shade, I'm just going to go run a 5-yard out. You still have to run a whip route. But what you don't want to do is try to cross his face and then whip right back out and he's sitting right there. So what this wide receiver does is he does like kind of a 1-step whip route. Now, again, I don't recommend this unless this is something in your playbook that you can do or if you have the freedom to do this. But when in theory, it's only 1 step, but it's the same type of concept that sells the break. So I'll play this thing full speed. So he comes off the ball, attacks him, breaks underneath him, and just is able to put the brakes on right now. Quarterback kind of sold and threw the ball low here, but there's an easy touchdown if we get open. But I want you to see, when we have inside shade, number one, this DB shouldn't backpedal on the goal line. That's probably the worst thing that you can do if you're any DBs listening to this. But when you break in front of his face, there's got to be some speed. Because what are we trying to get him to do more than anything right now? Crash on the slant. On a goal line, DBs, safeties, linebackers, they do not want to give up a slant. That's what they are told not to do. So when we can square them up, change tempo, and then we can accelerate to the inside and just put the brakes on like so by getting low, bringing my chin to my knee, that can really force a reaction out of this DB and get us some space. So this like 1-step whip, like I said, I don't recommend it unless it's something that you guys have in your playbook. Maybe it's like an option route that you could end up running. because I know down in the red zone, a lot of times offense, what they'll do at the slot or running back, they'll have them run like an option route. This is a move that you could use on an option route. You're here, you attack the DB's leverage, he's inside shade, you break in front of his face and you just put the brakes on. But there's got to be that burst. Even if it's for one step, that's what forces a reaction from the DB. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by this wide receiver squaring up, bursting to the inside, and then getting in and out of this break. Okay, so next example I want to talk about here is going to be from Hunter Renfrow. So Hunter Renfrow is going to be running this whip route, and this is one of those things where you got to know the situation when running a whip route. So I equate it to a slant because obviously a whip builds off of a slant, but this goes for any route, fellas. You got to have a high football IQ as a wide receiver, and you got to know what read you are and what type of play type it is. So in this specific example, Derek Carr is doing like a play action fake and coming out on a sprint out. What we are trying to do is we're trying to act like we're running a slant. Carr is going to be on the run, and we whip it back to the outside, and he hits us on the move. Now, a play action play from the quarterback. What is he doing? What does play action mean? It means he's faking a handoff, right? So he's going to be under center probably, or maybe he's in gun, and if he's bootlegging out, he's probably doing a stretch fake or some kind of fake to the opposite side. So like, let's say the quarterback's here, tailback's here. He's probably doing a fake here and then rolling out, hitting us off of the whip. So what do you think I have to do with the tempo of my whip? I got to slow it down a little bit. I can't be super fast. I can't do that one-step whip that we had in the last example because I'll get out to the zone too quick, and that gives the DB time to recover. So everybody, I'm sure, has seen this route at one point, and this is him doing this slide release, hits a crossover, runs the slant, whips it back out. You see Derek Carr's on the run right here. That is exactly how you would want to play this when it's a longer developing play. If this is like you're the first read, like let's say it's a whip route and then like the slot receiver's running a corner and it's like a smash concept, right? We're trying to read the corner. You're the first read, corner's the second read. This is probably not when you would want to do that slide release because it takes too long, right? We're not able to get a good read on the corner. Well, and that's just, and again, we like that against cover two. It's probably not the best scenario to use as an example, but just that's the timing that you would have if it were a faster read, right? So you want to slow it down. So this slide release is a great way to do that. Because how would you run a slant if you had inside shade press? You would attack the DB's outside shoulder. We try to make him flip his hips, think fade, and we slip underneath him, right? So if you have to do this with a tempo change, you just slow down. Or if you got to do this on a slower play, you just change the tempo. You slow the tempo down. So we come off with this slide release. So you see how Hunter Renfrow goes here. He shuffles to the outside, keeps his feet underneath him, hits a crossover. It makes it look exactly like a slant. We have him on the slant, and that's exactly how you would run the slant if it were a later developing read, like an RPO maybe. And then what does he do? He puts the brakes on off of his third step. 1, 2, snap on the third. What does he do? Hooks back around. This is the shin angle that you want to be shooting for right here, fellas. You see how his ankle isn't facing the turf. His knees caved inward a little bit. He's able to drive off the foot, but his ankle isn't facing the turf. That is a healthy break. That's a break where you're not going to hurt yourself. And he's still able to push out, still able to get explosion and widen himself from the DB. Fellas, it's all based on a couple things when it comes to a double move route. Selling the route, not changing your speed, not changing your stride, not changing your body language, and then being able to get out of the break in the least amount of time possible, but also having that great football IQ to where you know when to use certain releases and be more creative with your routes. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Renfrow here, setting him up with this slide release, faking to the outside, making it look like a slant, and then winning on this route. All right, fellas, really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you'd like to come out and get some work in with us in 14 different states this offseason, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out. I'll see you guys next time.